What if the delay you're frustrated about is actually part of a greater plan? What if help doesn't come when you expect it, not because you've been forgotten, but because something deeper is unfolding? And what if the silence of God is not absence, but intention? The story begins quietly, almost gently. A man named Lazarus is sick, not just slightly unwell, but seriously ill. His sisters, Mary and Martha, know this isn't something they can handle on their own. So they do what anyone would do in that situation. They reach out for help, but not just to anyone. They send word to Jesus. There's something deeply personal in the message they send. They don't beg, they don't explain in detail. They simply say, "Lord, the one you love is sick." That's it. No pressure, no instructions, just trust. It's a statement that carries both faith and expectation. They believe Jesus cares. They believe he will respond. And most importantly, they believe he understands. And when Jesus hears this, his response is unexpected. This sickness will not end in death, he says. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. At first, that sounds reassuring, almost comforting. But then, nothing happens. No immediate action, no urgent movement, no rush to intervene. Instead, Jesus stays where he is. 2 more days. 2 days that must have felt incredibly long. 2 days where Lazarus' condition doesn't improve, but worsens. 2 days where Mary and Martha wait, hoping, expecting, watching the door, wondering when Jesus will arrive. And he doesn't. This is where the tension begins, because from a human perspective, it doesn't make sense. If he cares, why wait? If he can heal, why delay? If he knows the situation, why not act immediately? These are questions people still ask today. Not just in stories, but in real life. When prayers feel unanswered. When situations don't change. When help doesn't arrive on time. And the silence feels confusing. But the story doesn't end in silence. After 2 days, Jesus finally says to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." They hesitate, because the last time they were there, people were trying to kill him. "Rabbi," they say, "a short while ago the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you are going back." There's fear in their response, concern, uncertainty. But Jesus isn't moved by it. He begins to speak about light and darkness, about walking in the day versus stumbling in the night. It's not just about physical movement, it's about timing, purpose, and direction. He is not reacting randomly, he is moving with intention. Then he says something that confuses them even more. "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." The disciples misunderstand. They think he means natural sleep. "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." They respond, but Jesus is speaking differently. So he tells them plainly, "Lazarus is dead." That moment must have hit hard, because now the delay feels even heavier. Now it feels like it's too late. But then Jesus adds something unexpected. "And for your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe." Glad that he wasn't there, that Lazarus died, that the situation reached this point. It sounds almost impossible to understand, but it reveals something deeper. Sometimes, what feels like a delay is actually preparation. Sometimes what looks like loss is setting the stage for something greater. Because if Jesus had arrived earlier, he could have healed Lazarus. That would have been a miracle. Powerful, impressive. But now something bigger is about to happen. Not just healing, but resurrection. Not just restoring health, but restoring life. And the purpose is clear. So that you may believe. This isn't just about Lazarus. It's about everyone watching, everyone waiting, everyone questioning, even the disciples themselves. Because belief doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in moments where understanding is stretched, where expectations are challenged, where the outcome seems uncertain. Thomas speaks next, often remembered for his doubt later in the story, but here he shows something different. "Let us also go, that we may die with him." It's a statement filled with loyalty and fear. He assumes the journey will end in danger, but he's willing to go anyway. There's something honest about that. Faith isn't always confident. Sometimes it's uncertain, sometimes it's afraid, but it still chooses to move forward. And that's where the story is heading. Forward. Toward a place that feels too late. Toward a situation that seems beyond repair. Toward a moment where hope appears to have ended. But in reality, it's just beginning. This part of the story doesn't show the miracle yet. It shows the waiting, the confusion, the questions. And that's what makes it so relatable. Because most of life is lived in that space, not at the moment of breakthrough, but in the moments leading up to it, where nothing makes sense, where timing feels off, where outcomes are unclear. Mary and Martha trusted Jesus. They believed in him, but they also expected him to act in a certain way, to come quickly, to fix the problem, to prevent the loss. And when that didn't happen, everything shifted. But here's the truth this passage reveals. God's timing is not always aligned with our expectations, but it is always aligned with purpose. The delay was not neglect, it was intentional. The silence was not absence, it was preparation. And the outcome would reveal something greater than anyone anticipated. Not just that Jesus could heal, but that he has authority over life and death. But they couldn't see that yet. All they could see was the delay. And that's where the challenge lies. Because it's easy to trust when things happen quickly, when prayers are answered immediately, when situations resolve the way we expect. But real trust is revealed in the waiting, in the moments where nothing changes, where answers don't come, where the situation seems to get worse, and still choosing to believe, still choosing to hold on, still choosing to trust, even when understanding is missing. That's what this moment invites. Not perfect faith, but persistent faith. The kind that says, I don't understand this, but I'm not walking away. Because sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come after the longest waits. And the most powerful moments come after everything feels lost. The disciples didn't fully understand what was happening. Mary and Martha didn't understand. No one in the story did. But Jesus did. And that's the anchor. Because even when we don't see the full picture, he does. Even when we don't understand the timing, he does. Even when it feels like it's too late, it's not. Because what looks like an ending might just be the beginning of something greater. And that's the shift in perspective this story offers. From frustration to trust, from confusion to expectation, from why is this happening to what could come from this. Because when we only focus on the delay, we miss the purpose. And when we only focus on the outcome we wanted, we miss the possibility of something greater. The story of Lazarus doesn't begin with resurrection. It begins with waiting, with questions, with uncertainty. And that's where many people are right now, in that in-between space, waiting for something to change, waiting for answers, waiting for clarity. And maybe this story is a reminder. Just because it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it won't. Just because it feels delayed, doesn't mean it's denied. And just because it looks like it's over, doesn't mean it is. Because sometimes the most powerful moments come after we think it's too late. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today.